So the match was yesterday. Not quite the buzz that it had last year.
Well, it was a crowded day.
It was a crowded day. We had literally no sports on last year. We were all watching it like it's like Sunday the Masters. Well, Tom Brady has cemented himself as the GOAT of football, but the debate over who is the greatest athletes across all of sports continues. Charles Barkley was one of the commentators on the match yesterday and gave his opinion on the matter after Brady landed a nice shot on the green. He said he thinks Brady is the greatest athlete of all time, not just the greatest football player. Now, we've talked about this a lot, and I was actually thinking about this morning about what and how we find, like, we're never going to really find a common ground on this, but I think, like, when you have the conversation of who's the greatest athlete of all time, we have to decide what the criteria for that is. Like, and I mean, what do we all agree on? Nothing. But are football players the best athletes of sports?
Is he in the running for greatest team sport athlete of all time?
I think team sport is an important qualifier.
Yes, it is.
And then, one of the knocks on Brady has always been that he's not actually that athletic. Now, I think that's wildly unfair and exaggerated.
Well, he was drafted by a Major League Baseball team in high school, so he's pretty athletic.
Well, everyone points to his draft picture and his combine, and I would argue also that, you can develop a little bit, but that's what's thrown out there when we're talking about how athletic he actually is. We'll probably never agree on what the criteria for this is. I think it's fair to say he is the greatest the greatest team athlete. But then, you have Jordan, who never lost in the finals. Like, the conversation is really never going to be agreed on. I think it's all just a matter of preference.
Well, the other thing is, like, greatest athlete. Like, if I said to you, greatest house in America, a lot of it would be, where's it located? Do I get a water and a sunset view? Do I have a big kitchen? Do I have some space for my animals? The greatest house isn't just, it's the biggest.
Right.
It's no, there's a lot of things you contextualize for. Like, the greatest car isn't the fastest. I remember years ago when I was dumb, well, I still am, but I was in my 20s, I test drove a Porsche. And I'm like, I'm 6'2", and it's got no air conditioning. Everybody's like, I got to have a Porsche. I finally made money, and I'm like, I'm totally uncomfortable. I live in Vegas, and it has no air conditioning. This is a bad car. And so I bought, your typical mid-sized car that had great air conditioning, and I had space to put, kids or whatever. The whole point being is greatest athlete. Do we count leadership? Do we count your ability to inspire others?
And it can't be who has the most championships. Well, I guess in football he does, but certainly not in team sports.
Well, we always talk about Jordan. Bill Russell has 11 championships. He won 11 in 13 years. The 2 years he didn't win, he was hurt. Or Bill Russell would have won 13 straight championships.
Exactly.
And Bill scored 19 a game. Best rebounder, best defender, a man's man. He would lead. Nobody screwed around with Bill Russell. And I was listening to an old NBA coach talk about him yesterday, and he's like, does everybody understand, when Bill was healthy, the Celtics won every championship, and Bill was so much beyond just the sky hook, flaky wilt, and his dunks. So what are we calling great here? Great, like Chris Paul's great. Part of it is he makes everybody on the floor better. Everybody. He had over 100 assists to 3 different Suns players
and that can't even be the qualifier, because LeBron, I think, is the ultimate make everybody better guy, and he has championships and Chris Paul doesn't.
He's probably the greatest athlete. I'm not saying, but if you said who's the best athlete, LeBron absolutely could have been a star in the NFL, no question, star in the NBA.
But then, like, what is athleticism? Is a gymnast more athletic than a football player? Like, some may argue, yes, it requires more skill and body control and, like, core power, just because, like, they might be smaller. So it really is just an absolute matter of preference. And then I actually think, like, that boxers and fighters should be considered some of the best athletes, because you're doing all of this while also getting hit. I don't know.
How about the people, the heptathlon? What do you call that thing in the Olympics where you have to do pole vaulting, long jumping, sprinting distance?
Yeah.
That to me, I can do everything. That's essentially the world's greatest.
And then you win that, so you're like the best at doing
everything. Wasn't that what
Bruce Jenner won? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, he was the best athlete. He could do everything.
It's totally a matter of preference. But I think we can all agree he's the best quarterback of all time. So at least we can agree on that, since we agree on nothing else. So Giannis missed 2 games after hyperextending his knee and was questionable heading into game 1 of the finals. He was able to play and put up 20 points with 17 rebounds and 4 assists. But he said he thought his season was over when the injury happened.
When I went down, I thought I'm going to be out for the year. I thought I'm just happy that I'm out there, and I'm able to, help my teammate in any way possible. And participate in NBA Finals, my first NBA.
It was great.
Yeah, I thought he looked good. I mean, obviously he's not 100%,
right? But
I thought he looked like he was. So if he's in pain, he's certainly hiding it well, and he's playing well enough. We're showing the block that he had last night, which was
so long,
amazing. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad he was able to play. Like that's the number one thing. I was very nervous about them kind of rushing him back, obviously, because it is the finals, and I'm sure wants to be out there, as he mentions. But we've seen what happens when players say they're okay so they can get out there, and then they do end up having what he mentioned, which is you're done for the year.
DeAndre Ayton has been the longest guy on the floor his entire life until last night. Giannis?
Yeah, Giannis feels like he is like, well, you didn't see Space Jam, but in Space Jam, Michael Jordan just stretches
it's just
half court to dunk. He just has like an extra couple inches. Fox Bet has the Suns favored by 5 in Game 2. Yeah. Also hit the over last night, 223 points. They had it at 219.5. And the over for Game 2 is 221, which I'm going to guess they're going to hit also. I like the Suns in Game 2. I do feel like the Bucks will play with a little, not that they weren't urgent yesterday, but they did feel like there's like some unnecessary turnovers and just they weren't fully at the same speed that the Suns are, which is obviously tough. They play fast, but I'll expect them to have a little more urgency in Game 2. So wide receiver N'Keal Harry has requested a trade from the Patriots. He was drafted in the first round by the Patriots in 2019, but hasn't lived up to those first-round expectations. In his 2 seasons, regular and postseason, he's only had 47 catches for 435 yards and 4 touchdowns. They have invested more in the wide receiver position this year, Nelson Aguilar and Kendrick Bourne. So he may not even make the 53-man roster. So,
well, yeah, I mean, he's better than he's shown with New England, but he doesn't separate. So he needs the right system to scheme him open. If you put him with the 49ers, for instance, he could be a nice 3. I thought he was going to be a better pro. He just can't separate from people.
Or you could go to the Chiefs, and the Chiefs seem to figure out a place for everybody. Yeah. If you go to a place where there's, a really creative offense, then he'll have an opportunity to be better there. He's not. He's the only wide receiver that the Patriots have taken in the first round in the Belichick era. So, I mean, we know what they've done in the draft the past couple of years. I don't think he's necessarily a bust. Where you're drafted generally determines what your expectations are.
If he goes somewhere else, again, to the right system, he could be a nice 2-3 receiver. I just think New England doesn't. It's not a good fit. We see it all the time with quarterbacks. Not a good fit. This isn't a good fit for him. Joy with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping.